Unfortunately, we have some bad news to talk about. I suppose it's not bad news if you're a bit sick of Pokemon, I guess, revealing so many new cards at once. But basically, Raging Surf has been delayed from May until September. So, for those of you, very quickly, for those of you who aren't that familiar with how sets work, basically, Japan gets a bunch of smaller sets that combine to make big sets in the West. So, for example, our next Scarlet and Violet set, Paldea Evolved, will consist of Triple Beat, Snow Hazard, and Clayburst, minus 30 or so cards that get cut out because otherwise the set would literally be too big. So some leftovers are saved for our next set, and so on, until then eventually we'll get like a major catch-up set with all the stuff that's been missing for ages. That's nothing to worry about right now. But basically, Raging Surf was like this expansion set that should have been a part of our Scarlet and Violet set 3. So for like August, September time. But now, because it's being delayed to September, it means that we won't see the cards from Raging Surf until Scarlet and Violet 4 in November, December time. So it's going to be quite a while before we see any of these cards. It also means that we won't, like, obviously have reveals until sometime mid-August, basically, a month before the set releases. Usually we start to see reveals. And it means that we probably won't see Plafin or Gohldengo in the TCG potentially before then, which is a bit frustrating, to be honest. There's also supposed to be a Garchomp EX, which is kind of cool, and a Terra Mewtwo and a Terra Scalarage deck. And we'll probably see those cards in our Scarlet and Violet 4 set as well. So just to go over this news, multiple Japanese distributors are now listing Raging Surf as releasing on September 21st. So that's kind of a month before that is when we can expect to see stuff start to be revealed. So this new date lineup lines up with the fact that June's Pokemon card 151 is Scarlet and Violet 2A. So basically, although this set is not going to be revealed, we do have some card reveals to talk about in May at least, because in June they're going to release this set that's basically about the original 151 Pokemon. And we don't know when that is going to release in English, to be honest, but it will release at some point, and we should start to see reveals as early as next month, if not at the end of April. So that is something at least to bear in mind. So we've now learned that Raging Surf will feature 62 cards before Secret Rares, so it's not like a very big set or anything, including Garchomp EX. As we previously reported, this set will be headlined by Gohldengo EX. We also think we may see Palafin EX. So a surfing dude, a land shark, and a superhero dolphin. The set will be another strengthening expansion pack subset like Pokemon Go 151 or Battle Region or Pokemon Card 151. So it's basically going to be another smaller set, but for purposes for the Western sets, it's going to be part of Scarlet and Violet 4. So just to recap, the two decks, the Skeldridge and Mewtwo, will release after Ruler of the Black Flame, which is basically Japan's next mini set that's releasing in July, which features a Darkness type Charizard EX. It's possible Terrestrial Pokemon releasing after July will be unusual types. We don't know this for sure, but it's an educated guess, basically. We've also received Skeldridge EX, so a new one headlining its own deck would have to be significantly different. The fact both decks mention Terra in their product titles seems to be foreshadowing this. So it probably means we'll get like a Ghost type Skeldridge, so a Psychic type one in the TCG, and then Mewtwo could be anything, to be honest. I don't remember what other Mewtwo types he has access to, but what this means overall, though, is that the updated release schedule means that our Scarlet and Violet 3 set, which is after Paldea Evolved, which will take place in August-September, will be comprised of the 100-ish cards from July's Ruler of the Black Flame, the 100-ish cards from July's 8 EX starter decks, which are like starter decks for players, and they feature a whole range of EXs, including Victini and Decidueye. Of course, we don't know how good those cards will be, but if I had to hazard a guess, I'm not having high hopes for them, to be honest, because starter EX decks typically don't have the best cards in them. But, I could be wrong, and I do hope I am wrong. And it will also feature the 30-ish cut cards from our Scarlet and Violet 2 set. So that's something else important to note, that everything revealed so far for Triple Beat, Snow Hazard, and Clayburst, not everything will make it into Paldea Evolved. There will be some leftovers that will have to be saved for Scarlet Violet 3 in August, September. So, if you're testing already for that format, do kind of bear that in mind as well. And then our special full set should consist of the English version of Pokemon Card 151. Again, we don't know this for sure, but it's a decent guess, so we could see that around the full time. And then our November set should be comprised of Raging Surf and Beyond. So there has been some trademarks filed recently, which basically suggest Pokemon is going to do Paradox Pokemon sooner rather than later. So it's interesting to see because, you'd think they might save Paradox and Area Zero for a later sets, like next year, but it seems that we are going to see sets for Paradox Pokemon this year. So that's something cool at least. So we should see a lot of reveals, to be fair, in the coming months, but we just won't see anything from Raging Surf until around August time. But we do have some new EX Pokemon to go over. So a new EX special set will release in Japan on May 19th. So it's kind of hard to hazard a guess as to when these Pokemon will make it over into the West. If I had to hazard a guess, I would say these are not going to be part of Snow Hazard and Clayburst, like in Paldea Involved. I think Pokemon will save these for promos, if I had to hazard a guess. But they have already done Houndstone promos. They have already done a Polmort pre-release promo, so they might not want to do that again. So they could, put these in a set, and we could see these either in Paldea Evolved, which I think is highly unlikely at this point, because of the amount of EX Pokemon that are already in that set. But they could either be in Paldea Evolved, Scarlet Violet 3, which would make sense, to be honest, or save them for an even future set, so like Scarlet Violet 4. So obviously bear these cards in mind, but I wouldn't, start thinking about testing them or anything, because it could be a while until we've got proper confirmation, basically, on when these cards will release in the West. So Toedscruel EX, kicking things off, 270 HP, pretty respectable. I do like when, EX Pokemon are a bit bulkier than just 260, 250. Has the ability Protective Charm, which is kind of like Pokemon's answer to Sableye. Prevent all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to all of your Pokemon that have energy attached, and existing effects are not removed, and of course damage is not an effect of an attack. So stuff like poison, stuff like energy denial, and stuff like damage counters from Sableye will be prevented. It's cool to see this. Now we have got an Espeon VMAX already in the format, but of course Espeon, despite being a decent attacker in Arceus decks, is a 3-prizer or VMAX Pokemon, whereas Toedscruel is going to be evolving from a Toedscool, which is a single prize basic, and Toedscruel itself only gives up 2 prizes. So very solid ability. It could be cool in something like a Zoroark box deck, because one of the big issues I find with Zoroark is that Sableye picks apart your Zoroarks before you get a chance to set up properly in the mid to late game. But this could help it out decently. Honestly, I don't think most decks would want to make room for a 1-1 line or even a 2-2 line of this just to counter Sableye. It's probably better ways to counter Sableye, to be honest, at that point. But either way, Toedscruel, very decent ability. Also, the attack Colony Rush for 2 grass energy does 80 damage, and then 40 more for each of your bench Pokemon with a grass energy attached. So that's an awful lot of damage. The only problem is grass energy acceleration is very flippant. We have 3 main ways of doing it in standard. We have Cherrim, which will only accelerate to non-Willbox Pokemon. We have Gardenia's Vigor, which is kind of the big one, I guess. And then Fortress EX, coming out in Paldea Evolved, the one that lets you KO it and then attach up to 5 grass energy cards from your deck to your Pokemon in any way you like. So you could use Fortress to get yourself going, which is decent, to be honest. It could be a very decent attacker, a decent partner. You could do something cool with that. But honestly, this attack's nothing crazy, I would say, just because you need the 2 grass energy on Toedscruel, and then you need at least 5 energy in play on the board. So, and Gardenia's Vigor, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't allow you to split up the energy to 2 different Pokemon. It has to go to 1 Pokemon, which is frustrating. So even though the attack seems really strong, I think this is going to be a bit of a rogue deck, to be honest, with Fortress. I hope I'm wrong, though, because Toedscruel's a cool Pokemon, and it'd be nice to see him doing well, but, could be cool. We also have Polmort EX, so this is Stage 2 with 300 HP, which is little bit on the weaker side, actually. We're kind of used to seeing stage 2s now with 320, 330. Has 2 attacks. Zap Kick does 60, which is whatever, I guess. And then Lightning Strike for 2 lightning energy is one of these. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. If you do, attacks does 220 to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So you can target the bench with this, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, I don't think this is like ever worth it in a lightning box deck, to be honest. I think the sniping capability, although it seems really cool, to set up a Pommel EX is not easy, and the payoff has to be really, really good. You could argue the payoff is this could be knocking out a Pokemon and finishing off a Pokemon or something to win you the game, which is obviously a major payoff. It also has free retreat, so it's never getting stuck. But to be honest, still having taken all of that into consideration, getting a stage 2 going with 2 lightning energy is just really awkward. In a Fluffy deck, once you get all the Pokemon set up, if you get all the Pokemon set up, it is very strong, and there is Electricity Generator as well. There's like Ampharos EX as an alternate attacker. There's a single price Pawmot that's pretty good. But to be honest, I'm just not really seeing it with this card. I think maybe it's a tech card, but seems a little bit weak, to be honest. Then we have Houndsdoomy EX, which has 260 HP, so unfortunately does not bulk at all. You really want your EX Pokemon to have 270, 280 to get out of, one-shots and stuff. But we have Big Bite and Last Respect. So Big Bite does 30 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat. Surprisingly annoying attack if your opponent has just been Ionoed or something and they can't find a switch or an escape rope. And then Last Respect does 160 damage for Psychic Double Turbo, and 10 more damage for each Psychic Pokemon in your discard pile. So it's essentially a majorly scaled up version of the Graveyard and the other Houndstone that was revealed in the Scarlet Violet base set. So pretty cool card, to be honest. The fact that you're doing 160 plus 10 is a massive scaling boost from 10 times or 80 plus 10 times. So this is essentially like a double Houndstone, I guess, but it's also worth 2 prizes, which is, kind of funny, I guess, to me. But either way, decent attack, to be honest. I think this has more one-hit KO potential than we've seen on like most of the other like Night March, Mad Party stuff we've seen recently. So that's kind of cool to see. You could also easily pair this up with Gardevoir EX because you have the trade engine to bin Pokemon. And you could also just bin extra Couriers and Gardevoirs while also using Gardevoir to accelerate energy potentially. So you don't have to use Double Turbo, which would of course reduce your damage output. So yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things about this card. Retreat cost of 3 is obviously a major pain. Weakness to Dark is whatever. But to be honest, I think this is a pretty cool card. And then, of course, each of the pre-evolutions are reprints because they were feeling lazy. But it does mean that the Graveyard you get in this deck will have the same attack, basically. It's just a 10 times modifier. So that's going to do it for the reveals today. A little bit disappointed, to be honest. I was hoping they would reveal Raging Surf, obviously, because, I love looking at new sets and new stuff gets revealed because it means I can theory craft in my head and stuff. But yeah, a little bit disappointing, but let me know what you guys think about the new EX Pokemon and Pokemon's decision to do this. And yeah, speed out power, and thank you for watching.